Maria Teresa, Duchess of Luxembourg, who rose to the top of the Luxembourg ducal family by marrying the heir to the throne, did not find a calm and quiet history in addition to the major reputational crisis she faced just a couple of years ago. She had to endure the premature loss of her two brothers. This European queen of Cuban descent had to go through a lot to wear the tiara, and the culprit for most of her misfortunes for decades was her mother-in-law, the former Grand Duchess Joséphine-Charlotte. The poor relationship between Joséphine-Charlotte, daughter of a Belgian monarch, and Maria Teresa, a wealthy Cuban heiress without a drop of royal blood in her veins, marred the lives of the entire Luxembourg royal family, including the patriarch of the principality, Grand Duke John of Luxembourg. Pleasing Joséphine-Charlotte was not easy. Born into a Belgian royal family, she was the daughter of King Leopold III and Princess Astrid. Her childhood and youth were marked by the premature death of her mother and the abdication of her father. Against this backdrop, when the possibility of marrying her off to the heir to the throne of a neighboring country was considered, the Belgian princess accepted. No one envisioned that John of Luxembourg and Joséphine-Charlotte would become one of the most amorous couples in European royal history. They had 5 children and a marriage that withstood criticism and crises, until Maria Teresa came along. Maria Teresa Mestre came from a wealthy Cuban family. Her father was a banker who left their country when the future Grand Duchess was only 3 years old. Despite more than a solid bank account, which allowed her to study political science in Geneva in the same class with the heir to the Luxembourg throne, Prince Henri, the origin of the young Cuban girl became the subject of criticism of her mother-in-law to her daughter-in-law. No matter how hard she tried, and knowing the character of the Grand Duchess, she certainly tried, Joséphine-Charlotte could not convince the heir that he is not a couple on Valentine's Day 1981. Her son and little Cuban married in St. Mary's Cathedral in Luxembourg, and her mother-in-law spent the day in tears. Rumors of bad relations between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law gradually gained momentum, especially after the appearance of a real princess in the family, Sibylle Weiler, daughter of Princess Olympia Torlonia and granddaughter of Infanta Beatrix of Bourbon and Battenberg, who married William of Luxembourg in 1994. A comparison of how the Grand Duchess treated Sibylle and Maria Teresa speaks for itself. One could see how she acted as an attentive mother-in-law to William's wife, to whom she even lent an umbrella in the rain, and how carelessly she lent jewelry to Maria Teresa, who, to top it all off, gave her 5 grandchildren and became heir to the title of Grand Duchess. Maria Teresa's revenge in the 2000s was served up cold and in 15 newspapers chosen specifically for the occasion. In 2000, Grand Duke John abdicated and the country was ruled by Maria Teresa's husband, now the Grand Duchess. With the approval of the new ruler, Maria Teresa organized an informal dinner with 15 editors of various newspapers and starred in what the newspaper called Lady Di for an hour and a half. Maria Teresa cried in front of the journalists and told everything the worst about her mother-in-law. Every rejection, every hurtful nickname, every reproach. The former Grand Duchess was presented as a classwoman who always treated her in a humiliating way. She even tried several times to break up her marriage to her son and even spread the information that he was having an affair with one of the ministers of her government, and that this was why Maria Teresa had left Luxembourg and settled in Cuba. To add weight to her words, Joséphine-Charlotte was caught saying that both her son and daughter-in-law were fools and could not talk. With this public declaration of enmity, which made headlines in many magazines, the first royal scandal in the Luxembourg royal family officially began, much to the surprise of the Grimaldis and the Windsors. Of course, the relationship between Maria Teresa and Joséphine-Charlotte never recovered after this journalistic dinner. Her mother-in-law passed away in 2005, and her daughter-in-law never mentioned her in public again. The story of Maria Teresa, Duchess of Luxembourg, is an example of how personal conflicts and family dramas can affect the public image and internal dynamics of royal families. Upon marrying the heir to the throne, Maria Teresa faced rejection from her mother-in-law, the former Grand Duchess Joséphine-Charlotte. This conflict, based on differences in background and perhaps class prejudice, marred Maria Teresa's life for many years. The situation escalated to the point where Maria Teresa decided to publicly expose her mother-in-law, the first major royal scandal in Luxembourg's history. This revelation, while dramatic, can be seen as an attempt by the Duchess to protect herself and her reputation in the public eye. This story emphasizes that even in the highest levels of society, family conflicts can be destructive and complicated. It also reminds us of the importance of mutual respect and understanding in family relationships, regardless of social status or background. Ultimately, despite all the difficulties, Maria Teresa was able to maintain her marriage and continue her role in the royal family, albeit with some indelible marks from the past.